God's timing is perfect, even when it feels like everything is taking too long. In life, we often find ourselves waiting for a breakthrough, waiting for an answer, waiting for a change. It's in these seasons of waiting that frustration can creep in, that doubt can whisper lies, and that fear can make us question whether God has forgotten about us. But God is never late. His plans are not rushed, nor are they delayed. They unfold exactly when they are meant to, even if we cannot see the full picture yet. There is something about human nature that struggles with waiting. We want things now, on our schedule, on our terms. But God does not operate on human timetables. He sees what we cannot see. He knows what we do not know. And because of that, His decisions, when, where, and how He blesses us are always right. If something hasn't happened yet, it's not because God has overlooked it. It's because the right moment has not arrived. And when that moment does come, nothing will be able to stop it. The Bible is filled with stories of people who had to trust God's timing. Joseph was given a dream as a young man, a vision of greatness, yet he spent years in slavery and in prison before that dream became reality. He could have given up, he could have become bitter, but he didn't. He trusted that even in the delays, God was still working. And when the time was right, God elevated him to a position he could have never reached on his own. The delay was not a denial, it was preparation. Abraham was promised that he would be the father of many nations, yet he and his wife Sarah waited decades for the child God had spoken of. They tried to take matters into their own hands, trying to force the promise to come to pass on their own terms, but that only led to problems. When they finally received their son, Isaac, it became clear God had always intended to fulfill His promise, but He was going to do it in His time, not theirs. When we are in a season of waiting, it is easy to think that nothing is happening, but God is always working behind the scenes. Sometimes the things we are waiting for are being prepared for us. Other times, we are the ones who need to be prepared for the blessing. If God gave us everything we asked for exactly when we wanted it, we might not be ready to handle it. We might not have the wisdom, the strength, or the character to carry the weight of the blessing. So He waits. He refines us. He teaches us patience. He molds us into the person who can fully receive what He has in store. Waiting is not wasted time when God is involved. It is a season of growth, a season of trust, a season of deepening faith. It is in the waiting that we learn to lean on Him, to depend on His word, and to trust His character. It is in these moments that we develop the faith that will sustain us when the blessing does arrive. Because blessings come with responsibility, open doors come with challenges, and if we are not spiritually, emotionally, and mentally prepared, we might mishandle what God has given us. There will be moments when the waiting feels unbearable, when it seems like everyone else is moving forward while you are stuck in place, when it seems like your prayers are bouncing off the ceiling unheard and unanswered. But feelings are not facts. Just because you do not see movement does not mean that God is not working. Just because things feel stagnant does not mean that God is forgotten. He is arranging things in ways you cannot comprehend. He is aligning circumstances, shifting people, orchestrating divine connections, all so that when the time is right, everything will fall into place perfectly. Trusting God's timing means surrendering your own. It means laying down your own expectations, your own deadlines, and your own plans, and believing that what He has planned is far greater than anything you could create for yourself. It means understanding that if something hasn't happened yet, it's not because God is withholding it. It's because He is ensuring that it happens at the precise moment when it will have the greatest impact. When you begin to see life through that lens, waiting no longer feels like a punishment. It becomes a season of expectation, a time to prepare, a moment to strengthen your faith. Faith is not just believing when things are going well. Faith is holding on even when there is no evidence that things are changing. It is easy to trust God when doors are opening, prayers are being answered, and everything is falling into place. But true faith is revealed in the waiting. in the moments when nothing seems to be happening, in the seasons when you feel forgotten. It is in those moments that faith becomes the key that unlocks the blessings God has in store. Without faith, it is easy to become discouraged, to give up too soon, to let doubt take over. But when faith remains strong, it prepares the way for what is coming. Faith is more than a feeling, it is an action. It is choosing to trust even when circumstances say otherwise. It is continuing to pray even when there is no immediate response. It is showing up, being faithful, and preparing for the breakthrough even before there is any sign of it. The Bible speaks of Noah, a man who was told by God to build an ark when there was no rain. He worked for years, enduring ridicule, doubt, and uncertainty, yet he remained faithful to what God had told him. He didn't wait for the storm to come before he started building. He prepared in advance because he had faith that what God said would come to pass. Faith that prepares the way is not passive. It requires movement. It means stepping out even when the path is unclear. It means making decisions based on God's promises rather than on fear or uncertainty. Too often people say they are waiting on God, but they are not doing anything to get ready. They want a new opportunity, but are not sharpening their skills. They want a new door to open, but are not positioning themselves to walk through it. Faith requires action. It requires movement in the direction of God's promises, even before the promise is fulfilled. Preparation is a sign of expectation. When someone believes rain is coming, they bring an umbrella. When a farmer believes in the harvest, he plants seeds. If you believe that God is going to bless you, your actions will reflect that belief. Faith that prepares the way means getting ready for what you are praying for. If you're believing for an opportunity, prepare as if it is already on the way. If you are trusting God for healing, speak and act in faith. If you're waiting for a new season, make sure you are developing yourself so that when the opportunity comes, you will be ready to step into it. Faith also requires endurance. There will be times when you will have to keep believing even when everything around you tells you to give up. There will be moments when it feels like nothing is happening, when the wait feels endless, and when discouragement tries to take over. That is when faith must stand strong. The enemy wants nothing more than for you to quit too soon, to walk away right before your breakthrough, to stop believing just before the blessing arrives. But faith refuses to be shaken. It stays rooted in God's promises, knowing that He is faithful to complete what He has started. Faith is what separates those who receive God's blessings from those who give up before they arrive. It is what keeps people moving forward even when they do not yet see the results. It is what causes people to step out in obedience even when the path is unclear. It is what turns waiting into preparation, struggles into testimonies, and obstacles into stepping stones. Faith is the foundation that allows God to do the impossible in the lives of those who truly believe. Positioning yourself for blessings requires more than just hope. It requires intentional action. Many people pray for breakthroughs, for new opportunities, for a shift in their lives, yet they remain in the same place, spiritually, mentally, and physically. They desire change, but they do not prepare for it. They ask for an open door, but are not ready to walk through it when it arrives. Positioning yourself for blessings means aligning your thoughts, your actions, and your heart with God's will so that when the moment comes, you are fully prepared to receive what He has in store. God is not a God of confusion or disorder. His blessings flow where there is obedience, where there is faith, and where there is readiness. Too often, people miss what God has for them simply because they are not in the right position to receive it. They are distracted by the wrong things, entangled in the wrong relationships, consumed by fear and doubt. They say they want change, but their daily habits and choices do not reflect that desire. Positioning yourself for blessings means removing anything in your life that is hindering your growth, anything that is keeping you stuck. Anything that is preventing you from stepping into what God has for you. Preparation is a key part of positioning. Before God brings a new level of blessings into your life, He first prepares you for it. A farmer does not wait until the rain comes to prepare his field. He tills the soil, plants the seeds, and makes sure everything is in place so that when the rain falls, growth can take place. If you believe God is going to move in your life, Your actions should reflect that belief. If you are praying for a new job, are you developing your skills? If you are believing for a financial breakthrough, are you being a good steward of what you already have? If you are asking God for greater opportunities, are you making sure you are mentally and spiritually prepared to handle them? Many people are praying for something they are not ready for, and God in His wisdom does not release blessings prematurely. God also requires alignment with His will. Sometimes the reason a blessing has not come is because a person is out of position, pursuing things that are not part of God's plan. God will not bless something that is leading you away from Him. He will not open doors that will take you further from your purpose. Positioning yourself for blessings means seeking God first, making sure that your desires align with His will. When you are in alignment, blessings flow naturally. The right doors open, the right opportunities appear, and the right connections are made. Faith plays a major role in positioning. Many times, God calls people to step out in faith before they see the full picture. He asked Abraham to leave his home before revealing where He was leading him. He told Peter to step out of the boat before calming the storm. Positioning yourself for blessings means taking steps of faith, even when you do not have all the answers. It means being obedient even when it does not make sense. It means trusting that if God is calling you to move, He has already prepared the way. Obedience is another key to positioning. God blesses those who walk in obedience to His word. Throughout the Bible, blessings are connected to obedience. When the Israelites followed God's instructions, they walked in abundance. When they turned away, they faced struggles. Obedience may not always be easy, but it always leads to God's best. It may require sacrifice. It may require letting go of things that are comfortable, but it ensures that when God's blessings arrive, you are exactly where you need to be to receive them. Doubt and fear are two of the greatest obstacles to receiving the blessings God has prepared. They creep into the mind, whispering lies that make people question whether God's promises will ever come to pass. Fear makes people hesitate, hold back, and settle for less than what God has for them. Doubt makes people second-guess whether they are truly worthy of God's blessings or whether He is even listening to their prayers. But these are not from God. They are tools used to keep people stuck, to keep them from stepping into the fullness of their calling, to make them turn back just before the breakthrough comes. God has always called people to move forward in faith, even when circumstances seem impossible. Throughout Scripture, there are countless examples of individuals who had every reason to be afraid, every reason to doubt, yet they chose to trust in God. When Moses stood before the Red Sea with the Egyptian army behind him, fear could have paralyzed him. Doubt could have made him question whether he truly heard from God. But instead, he obeyed, raised his staff, and watched as the waters parted before him. If he had let fear control him, the Israelites would have never witnessed that miracle. Doubt often begins as a small thought, a quiet voice that asks, "What if? What if things don't work out? What if I'm not good enough? What if God isn't really going to do what He said?" Left unchecked, those thoughts grow stronger, and soon they become the foundation for decisions that lead people away from what God has planned. Fear works the same way. It makes people hesitate, retreat, and avoid stepping into the unknown. But faith is what overcomes both. Faith silences doubt, reminding the heart that God is faithful. Faith drives out fear because it is rooted in trust, not in circumstances. Fear convinces people to stay in situations that no longer serve them because the unknown feels too risky. It makes people delay obedience because they want more proof before they take a step. But faith does not wait for proof. Faith moves forward even when things don't make sense. It is what allows people to step into God's blessings rather than let them pass by. There are people who have prayed for opportunities, but when they arrived, fear kept them from walking through the door. There are people who have asked for God's guidance, but when He called them to step out, doubt made them stay where they were. The blessings of God require trust. They require movement. They require a willingness to believe that God's plans are greater than any fear or uncertainty. Every great move of God in a person's life requires them to push past fear and doubt. When Peter walked on water, it wasn't the wind or the waves that made him sink, it was his own doubt. The moment he took his eyes off Jesus and let fear take over, he began to fall. This is what happens when people allow doubt to dictate their choices. They start strong, they step out in faith, but as soon as they look at the challenges around them instead of focusing on God, they lose their... The enemy wants nothing more than to fill people's hearts with fear, to make them believe that their past disqualifies them, that they will fail, that they are not enough. But God has not given a spirit of fear. He has given power, love, and a sound mind. Overcoming doubt and fear is a daily decision. It is choosing to believe in God's promises, even when nothing in the natural world seems to confirm them. It is stepping forward with courage, even when the path ahead is unclear. It is refusing to let negative thoughts take root, replacing them with the truth of God's word. It is understanding that fear will always try to hold people back, but faith is what pushes them forward. Gratitude is more than just a feeling. It is a powerful force that opens the doors for God's blessings. It is easy to be thankful after the breakthrough comes, after the prayer is answered, after the situation turns around. But true gratitude is learning to thank God in advance, before the blessing arrives, before the situation changes, before the evidence is seen. It is an act of faith that says, God, I trust you, even when I don't see the full picture. Throughout the Bible, gratitude is connected to miracles, breakthroughs, and the favor of God. When Jesus stood before the tomb of Lazarus, before he called him out from the grave, the first thing he did was give thanks. He thanked God before the miracle happened. When Jesus fed the 5,000, he took the little that was available, the 5 loaves and 2 fish, lifted them up and gave thanks. It was after this moment of gratitude that the food was multiplied to feed the entire crowd. There is something powerful about giving thanks before the breakthrough, about expressing gratitude even when it looks like nothing is happening. It shifts the focus from the problem to God's power. Gratitude is not about ignoring reality or pretending that everything is perfect. It is about choosing to recognize God's faithfulness even in the midst of uncertainty. Many people focus so much on what they don't have that they fail to see what God has already provided. They spend time worrying about the future instead of thanking God for how He has carried them through in the past. Gratitude shifts the mindset. It takes the focus off fear, doubt, and frustration and places it back on God's goodness. When a heart is full of gratitude, it is ready to receive more. There are times when life does not go according to plan, when delays feel endless, when doors remain closed despite all efforts. In those moments, gratitude can feel difficult, but that is when it is needed the most. Gratitude in difficult times is an act of trust. It is saying, God, I don't understand this right now, but I know you are working. I know your plans are greater than mine. I know that even in the waiting, you are faithful. When gratitude becomes a lifestyle rather than just a reaction to blessings, it transforms everything. Gratitude also strengthens faith. When people take time to thank God for what He has already done, it reminds them of His faithfulness. It builds confidence that if He has come through before, He will do it again. When David stood before Goliath, he remembered how God had delivered him from the lion and the bear. That gratitude for past victories gave him the courage to step forward in faith. The same principle applies in everyday life. When people intentionally recall the ways God has provided, healed, protected, and guided them, it fuels their faith for the future. Another key to gratitude is speaking it out. Words have power. Declaring thankfulness, even before seeing the results, sets a tone of expectation. It is an expression of trust that God is already moving, already aligning things, already preparing what is needed. The enemy wants people to complain, to focus on what's missing, to dwell on disappointments. But a grateful heart silences negativity. It removes fear and doubt, replacing them with peace and confidence in God's plan. Gratitude is not just about receiving blessings. It also deepens the relationship with God. It draws people closer to Him, reminding them that He is the source of everything good. It creates a mindset of abundance rather than lack. When gratitude becomes a daily practice, it transforms perspectives, strengthens faith, and prepares the heart for even greater blessings. It is a key that unlocks the fullness of what God has in store. God's timing is not the same as human timing. People often become frustrated when things do not happen as quickly as they expect, when prayers seem unanswered, or when doors remain closed. But what may feel like a delay is often God's divine preparation. He sees what is ahead, He knows what is needed, and He is never late. Trusting His timing means surrendering control, believing that He is working even when nothing seems to be changing, and understanding that His plans are always greater than human expectations. Throughout Scripture, God's promises often took time to be fulfilled. Abraham was given the promise of a son, but years passed before Isaac was born. Joseph had dreams of leadership, but before he saw them come to pass, he went through betrayal, slavery, and imprisonment. David was anointed as king, yet he spent years in the wilderness before taking the throne. Each of these individuals had moments where it seemed like nothing was happening, moments where they could have given up, moments where doubt could have taken over. But in every case, God was working behind the scenes, preparing them, shaping them, strengthening them, so that when the blessing arrived, they would be ready to handle it. There is a reason why God does not always give immediate answers. Sometimes what is being asked for is not yet ready, or sometimes the person asking is not yet ready. A child may ask for a car, but a loving parent will not hand over the keys until they are mature enough to drive. In the same way, God withholds certain blessings until the time is right, until the character has been developed, until the person is in the right position to handle what He is about to give. A delay is not a denial. It is often God's way of making sure the blessing is received in its fullest measure. Waiting on God's timing is not about sitting still and doing nothing. It is about active preparation, about growing, about developing the skills, the mindset, and the faith needed to step into the next season. Too often, people become discouraged in the waiting season, losing focus, allowing frustration to take over. But the waiting period is not wasted time. It is the time when faith is strengthened, when patience is built, when trust in God is deepened. The longer the wait, the greater the preparation, and the greater the blessing that is coming. God's timing also protects from premature blessings. Many people have rushed into opportunities they were not ready for, relationships that were not meant for them, or decisions made out of impatience, only to realize later that they stepped ahead of God's plan. Moving too soon can lead to unnecessary struggles, frustration, and disappointment, but when God opens a door at the right time, everything falls into place. There is peace, there is favor, there is clarity. When something is forced, it often requires striving and stress, but when something is in God's timing, there is a supernatural ease. Trusting God's timing requires faith in His plan. Even when circumstances seem uncertain, it means believing that delays are not punishments but divine positioning. It means resting in the assurance that He has not forgotten, that He is always working, that every moment of waiting is serving a purpose. It means shifting the focus from frustration to expectation, from doubt to confidence, from impatience to trust. God does not make mistakes. If something has not happened yet, it is because the right time has not yet come. Trusting Him means knowing that when the appointed time arrives, nothing can stop His blessings from being poured out.